welcome everyone to the ScreamCast episode 89. I am Sean DeRager. With me, Brad Henderson.
Yo.
Who never waits for me to introduce him.
Happy birthday to Wikipedia. It's the 15th anniversary.
Okay, all right. Excellent. And, of course, BJ Colangelo.
Yo, baby pop.
I don't know why I said your last name like that. I apologize.
It's fine.
What's the weirdest, has anybody really, completely butchered your last name? What's the worst?
Colangelo is the one I get the most. Which just sounds so delicious. That's the one that I get almost all. I get that one all the time. A lot of people will drop the L and just go Coangelo. I'm like, there's an L there. But it's usually not terribly butchered, but it's just wrong.
What about you, Sean?
Durager. It's DeRager, and it's like my grandpa had to put a capital R, D-U capital R-E-G-G-E-R, just to get people to pronounce it right, because he was getting sick of people pronouncing it wrong. I don't do that.
It's kind of crazy when people butcher names, right?
I butcher names all the time. I know.
Well, you butcher names because you can't read. There's a difference.
I used to be really good at pronouncing last names. As I said, I was the basketball announcer guy in high school, but I think the traumatic experience that I had, that I think I mentioned on the show, ruined that for me. So I used to be really good until that mishap, where I introduced the boys' basketball team as daughters of so and so's on Parents' Night. That was great. So
I never had a weird pronunciation of my last name. However, over the phone, I always say, whatever job I had, or, just answering the phone, hey, this is Brad, how may I help you? Oh, hey, Fred, how are you? And it's I've gotten Fred from my Blockbuster days to even now.
People always, I think they just don't want to accept that my name is BJ, and that's what I use at work. So they'd be like, thank you for calling my place of work. This is BJ. How can I help you? Oh, hey, CJ. No, that's not what I said. Or they'll be like, hey, wait. Did you say your name was BJ? And I'll be like, yep, that's my name. It's in my signature when I send you the email that you'll get later confirming, all the information I'm giving. Oh,
that's
okay.
Weird. I get, because I spell my name S-E-A-N, so I get Seen or Sion a lot. I'm like,
yeah, but here's the thing, man, is that a lot of people, I know two people in real life that pronounce it Scene.
What?
And they get, overly upset if you say Sean.
Wait, they spell it Sean and they pronounce it Scene.
S-E-A-N.
And that's their name.
Yes, I work at a hospital.
Don't they know who Sean Connery is?
What? Wow.
That was a real bad Sean Connery. You are not allowed to ever do it again.
Just stick to Mark Wahlberg. It's a lot better. But he pronounces it Scene, because I went over there and he acted like I had no idea. I was speaking to him and I was like, hey, do you know where Sean is? Nope. I was like, okay.
I hate when people do that shit.
Well,
God.
I'm looking for this guy, and he's like, oh, that's me, but my name's not Sean. And I was like, I looked at it and was like, I don't know, man. That's it looks like Sean to me. What do you want me to call you? And he's like, Scene. And I was like, all right, cool. Scene?
His parents were on crystal meth.
Oh, but anyways.
Right. Wow, I digress.
That was a fun tangent. Nice 5 minutes.
So today we're going to be talking. We're just going to
probably going to be better than the rest of the show.
We got some stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking about the recent deaths, which we'll try to keep it as lighthearted as possible. But we've had some major deaths in the past few weeks we need to address. But we also have our Screams segment. Scream Streams. Fuck. Segment.
Stream Screams.
Jesus
you said
Christ.
it wrong.
You can't read and you can't.
I didn't write it down this time. I need to write it down.
You need to write down streams.
Yeah, I always get them confused. It's like a weird dyslexia I have with screams.
What was your dyslexia with Junkos?
That was me just not giving a shit. So we got an early Peter Weller film to talk about, and then we also have a 1995 straight-to-video action flick we will be discussing a little bit later. But first, let's jump into what's on our doorstep.
Holy cow, I almost forgot.
We'll get the door.
I will start.
Whoa, Sean, taking initiative.
Because I'm
ill-prepared, let's be real here. That's why I didn't jump in this time.
I watched my first pornographic film probably since high school.
I'm really glad that you clarified since high school, because I was gonna be really concerned if you were gonna end the sentence with my first pornographic film. Like, you have children. How? What?
No, since high school, I've just never been a porn guy.
Not even college?
That's the thing. I should say porn film, because after, once the internet hit.
RedTube clips don't count.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're actually
Passion
talking
HD does not count.
Okay. Wow. You just dug a little deep there. See, I'm aficionado on it, so if you ever make a joke, I know exactly what you're talking about.
No, I have nothing to hide, but I'm just saying that sitting down and watching a pornographic
I think that's the difference, is because I think that's kind of it's a loophole to say you don't watch it. It's like, oh, I've never watched a full movie of porno. Like, okay. Yeah, I would say that was a good portion of myself too, because I always ended up, done before it was done.
Just give me a minute and a half. We're good to go.
Damn.
For that. Anyway, but I mean, as far as like, all right, I'm going to sit down and watch a pornographic film. Like, I haven't done that. I mean, most of the time it's, you need to take care of a little bit of business. You find something that'll suffice, and you get it done. BJ, I apologize if this is too much information. Everyone, I apologize.
Why are you apologizing to me?
You don't need to apologize to BJ. What? BJ watches porno.
I watch way more than you do.
I know. Anyway, I got the Vinegar Syndrome film Corruption, because I was like, well, maybe this is something different. Maybe this is something, a little more artistic.
It is.
It's a film by Roger Watkins. It is. I think it is if you watch a lot of porno of these types of films, and it is definitely different because it's.
How do you know it's different? You never watched one.
The last one I saw when I was in high school.
Yeah,
and the stereotypes. You know the stereotypes of
correct. Yeah, I do. That's why I think this one's a little bit more special, because it's on a whole new level of porno.
What was interesting to me is, it's kind of structured, as a standard porno. A little bit of moving the plot along, then there's a scenario, a bunch of sex, moving along to the next, moving the plot along. Very kind of a thin plot, but what was interesting to me was how disconnected everyone was, and that seems to be a purposeful thing. Like, it wasn't trying to be like sexy. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? It was like
the situation of the plot is that we're given a guy who has these. In a way, it's a film about temptation, of course, corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the reason why it's not, a lot of porno from the 70s and 80s isn't clean, because nowadays we're so used to completely shaved people. But, back then, hair was hair and it was everywhere. But
we need to bring it back.
Aside from,
I think
the dirtiness of, I guess people would consider dirtiness of that. I think on another level, it's very, it's. And we talked about this in the last episode with Knock Knock, is that you're not given that deep, dark sense of temptation And I think this is one film that does stagger that, and you get to see, a man who breaks down in a way. Like take all the point. Let's talk about the film without the sex.
Yes.
And have a conversation on that note, because I think alone this film is a lot more important and kind of has something to say if you actually take away the porno and just make it a straightforward psychological drama.
And I actually tried to do that because the scenes would go on for so long. I would just be like, "Come on!" And I would just fast forward to let's get to the next. It's almost like a musical, right? Let me fast forward the musical numbers. Get to what the plot's about.
Wow, you're offending BJ left and right.
I'm real upset with you. I'm going to give you like a crash course and all the porn you need to watch to catch up
musicals
with.
is the wrong thing because I understand that the songs actually perpetuate and move forward the plot, whereas in a pornography, most of them, that does not happen. In this case, though, I feel like they actually tried to have, while the sex would go on for a while, like a standard porno, they actually try to convey a message and move the plot forward using these scenes in a way. So that was very interesting to me. I don't know if I'll ever rewatch this. This is not...
I don't know. I think, honestly, I think you should. However, I think it should be after, if you do watch more art house pornography, and I think you'll have a more of a respect for this to see kind of how crazy, this film actually gets. And we have this fucking erotic piece of cinema that kind of gets under our skin because we're watching such a, kind of a good guy in a way, this Williams character or whatever. And, he has that debt. And the way it starts, too. Like, we start with kind of this Lynch, type cinematography and this, John Carpenter soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it really just pulls you in. I even said that to you in the beginning. I was like, if fucking Carpenter and Lynch made a hardcore pornography together, this would probably be it.
That's the best way to describe it.
Just the way that music pulls you in, it gives you that sense of dread, even before we see what he unfolds and this debt that he owes and kind of this, I would say it's deceit. This web of deceit he kind of gets into. And in all these things that unfold, and for him to keep going to all these rooms and experiencing what he experiences, just close your eyes, not watch the actual pornography, because I think that's kind of what, for a lot of people, kind of ruins it, because they're like, oh, this is a porno. Well, not necessarily. I mean, it's a movie with sex. That's all it is. And I think if you watch it like that and watch him go to each room and just picture him having sex and doing these carnal desires or whatever you want to call it, all this crazy shit. I think the film actually has a lot to say because, it's a tale of mortality and just weird, this weird, because you always hear about those weird, true stories of, underground, sex rings and all that kind of stuff. You kind of, I think in a way, someone to really try to fuck somebody over, this would be a good story. I don't know. That's why I think it's a little bit more than just a porno film. And also, Roger Watkins is a motherfucker. He's really fucked up. And even stuff with Last House on Dead End Street. I mean, he really churns it out. He knows kind of what gets under your skin, and he can make really dirty, trashy cinema. And he does.
That's what I wanted to get into, and the reason why I got this was because there is that print. That the Easter egg of Last House on Dead End Street, and I really want to see it. I know that Vinegar Syndrome is planning on bringing it to Blu-ray or something. They're going to be restoring it, but it was almost like this kind of Easter egg was almost too tempting to pass up. So I had to grab it. I haven't watched it yet. I do have how to find it now. And if any of you want to know, I suppose you can DM us or something. You know
What?
how to get the Easter egg of Last House on Dead End Street.
You know, it was funny because I had that Black Friday guide that came out for Vinegar Syndrome, and I actually put on how to find it.
Yeah.
And then I sent it over to the Vinegar Syndrome guys, and they're like, dude, you need to take that out. We want people to literally go crazy trying to find this.
It is ridiculous how to get to it. It's like, really, you guys?
But once I found out, I was like, man, that's kind of fucking cool.
So,
that's why they're honestly like one of the best distribution companies on the market, because they still do shit like that. Whereas like everyone else, it's, you know, within a day it's spoiled and everybody can do it. But they're like, nah, we're gonna keep it secret and you can go fuck yourselves. It's like, oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's
No, I mean, you know,
best.
just how this is a weird one. This is the one I need to like hide from everyone in my household. You know, this Blu-ray, but you know, I respect it. Like, it's a film that I respect. I can see what he's doing. I respect that he's trying to do something other than the standard, just kind of goofy sexploitation, sexy time, you know, porno films. You know what I mean? Like, he's actually trying, you know, to really do an actual film. And I mean, I still haven't watched. There's two. What I haven't watched Necro. No, not Necro. Nymphomaniac. I've watched Necromantic. I haven't watched Nymphomaniac yet, and I don't know how that would compare to a film like this. Like, if that would be considered pornography or just art house, you know, with some hardcore sex.
The best pornographic films, like the best musical theater, when the emotion gets too much, they break out into song/fucking. That's the way I always like to think about it. If something feels forced and out of place, then it, you know, to me, then it's, it's, they're doing it for the sake of doing it. But when it's, you know, it feels, if you can take the actual sex out of the story and it's still a good story, then, like, that's important to me.
I can respect that. Totally.
But then sometimes it's nice to just watch fucking for fucking sake.
Well, yeah. Truth.
Because let's be real here. Anyway.
So I watched that, and so the next movie, the only other movie I got to actually watch, other than the two that we're going to be talking about today for sure, is not a horror film, but a Straight Outta Compton. And let me tell you, the director's cut. I watched it. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Jesus.
And, but that thing flies by. It's, so well, either it's really well edited and well done, or I was just kind of caught up because I was huge into, you know, I was this white country boy in Iowa obsessed with gangster rap.
Of course.
So it was really fun, watching this and kind of getting the memories of my dorky self, you know, discovering this through my cousin who was really into it.
In your Genkos?
Yeah. This is before Genkos. Genkos, whatever the fuck. I don't care. But this movie was really fun. Like, I think the casting is just fantastic and spot on. It kind of dives into, you know, standard biopic type things, but it's almost, you know, if you're going to do something in the music industry, it's almost, all these stories are somewhat the same. Someone's rise to fame and the things that they deal with, money and power and stuff like that. But I can't believe that this thing basically got snubbed at the Oscars, except for the writers, who are all white, by the way. But like the actors are snubbed, the director, like, it's just, this was weird to me because I had such a great time watching this film.
It's because it's the Oscars.
Yeah, well, yeah, whatever. That's a whole other conversation. But Ice Cube's son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., was fabulous as Ice Cube, and it was like watching a younger. I mean, he's related. Obviously, he's gonna get those mannerisms down. But I think him and the actor who played Eazy-E, Jason Mitchell, just nailed it. But I had fun. Have you guys seen this yet?
I haven't yet.
It's a lot of fun. I really liked it a lot.
It's good, man. It's the mute one. Oh man, the concert footage and stuff. Oh, it's just when the first time the Eazy-E gets on the mic in the recording studio, I got goosebumps and had a big old stupid grin on my face when he starts, rolling down the street in my 6'4". Obviously, I'm white and cannot rap at all.
Rolling down the street
in my 6'4". Hey guys, I listen to the gangsta rap.
Oh my
Jesus.
Today was a good day, huh?
The amount of people that just turned off this podcast are like, I'm done. That's all I needed.
Oh my God.
Well, I'm not going to imitate, I'm not going to imitate it, then that's a whole other conversation. But Straight Outta Compton,
don't do that. Please
really
don't.
good. The director's cut, I haven't seen the theatrical, but the director's cut, for it
How
being
long is the theatrical?
2 hours and 25 minutes. So they tack on 20 minutes.
That's a fucking long-ass movie.
Yeah. But
I heard it's good. I mean, I heard
flies
it's great.
by.
I don't doubt it at all. I just haven't got around to it.
I know for sure, the first hour, I felt like it was only 30 minutes, or at least less. I looked at the clock, I was like, whoa, an hour's gone by. That's how
I feel about Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Kill Bill's like the shortest movie ever to me for some weird reason.
Yeah, it's a testament to good editing and good storytelling when a movie just flies on by.
It's all about editing and storytelling because sometimes a 60-minute movie, 65-minute movie can be 3 hours.
Yep. So that's all I got to talk about. I have other things on deck that I've gotten in the mail.
On deck.
That I want to get to, but the pile just keeps on growing and.
Like my dick. All right.
Whoa.
I've only got three this week.
Go ahead.
Yeah, whoa. So the first one was a Netflix watch. I watched Contracted Phase 2.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
There's a reason why Eric didn't want his name on that one.
It's a movie.
It is.
It's a movie that happened. It's a movie that exists. And here's the thing that makes me real bummed, is that Morgan Peter Brown is consistently one of my favorite performers. He does not get nearly enough work or nearly enough credit. I think he is the perfect everyman, and he finally gets to play something other than guidance counselor or
teacher.
Nice guy with glasses, teacher. Yeah, he gets to play something badass, and he's so good in it, but everything around him is awful, and it's a shame because he's great.
The original writer and director not involved at all.
Correct. He actually requested his name to be pulled from everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
He did not want his name attached whatsoever.
Yeah,
not even original story by Eric.
Yeah, he wanted nothing.
Wow.
There's Najara from the first one. She is her dead body is in it, and then Matt Mercer is he was in the original, and he's kind of running the show in this one, and he's not bad. He's working with what he's got. The script is just abysmal. Oh Lord, is it bad? And it's just, I mean, for what it's worth, it's a movie that if you are 6 deep in, you'll probably have a great time with, because it's got some moments that are just real gross and kind of ridiculous, but for the most part, it's just fucking absurd, especially as a sequel. If it was a standalone, I think I probably would have had a lot more fun with it. Because it is really ridiculous. It's just completely absurd. And I think in that sense, it's nice to see kind of a completely different angle taken with that story. But given that it is a sequel, I have to look at it as kind of a through line. And it's just such a weird way for it to go compared to the original.
It's one of those things, after the original, during the original, once you find out exactly what's happening, you're like, man, it's so fucking cool and badass. Man, I would love to see a sequel, but maybe I don't, because that's kind of the fun of the reveal.
Right, is the ambiguity of the first one is kind of the charm of it.
So whether it goes that direction or stays with the STD thing, I don't know. It's just neither of them worked as I think would be a sequel, and I just really don't think this worked at all.
Well, this is the writer is his first screenwriting gig.
Yeah. And that's, in all honesty, that's where the problem starts, is it all lies in the script. The people that are in it, you can tell, are really trying to make this shit work, and it's just not happening. There needed to be more of, the BJ character, because when he is on screen, he steals it. Absolutely. Every single time Morgan was on screen, I was like, yeah, you're great. And it's not because I love all of your other work. It's because you're legitimately great and you're bringing something really cool to this awful film. But everything else is just kind of a fucking mess.
But it's one of those things, too, that, yeah, it might be a first-time screenwriter, but I think, as we all know, kind of how Hollywood in that scene is, especially companies, because a company will purchase a, film to distribute it. It will do well, and they're like, okay, now we want to actually do the sequel, and we will fund it. And that's exactly probably what happened with this, because they're like, man, this is a big hit on Netflix. People are talking about it. It's all over the place. We got to do this quick.
Got to cash in. Got to cash in.
And that's exactly all it is. It's just a cash in, because they're going to get views. People, even though it's not a huge movie, it was one of those that had a long lifespan on Netflix, and still,
it snuck up on everybody. No one really knew about it, and then it popped up, and then word of mouth spread like crazy. It also hit that sweet spot like right before the end of year lists came out, and then it was like boom, and everybody was talking about it.
It was in my top 10.
It was on mine too. It was like 7
top
or
10
8.
2000, top 2014.
Yeah, same. I loved it.
Yeah.
And like I said, this new one, I think if it wasn't a sequel, I probably would be hailing it as like,
it would have been an okay like direct-to-video movie.
Absolutely. I would have been like, this is like trashy fun, but because it's a sequel, I have to look at it from that angle. And that's kind of what sucks about it.
I'm kind of excited to see what people say about it, the general public.
Yeah, I am too. I think that's what it's going to be. I think most people are going to be like, it's not as good as the first one. I think we're going to get a lot less people that are going to be able to be objective and say, nah, dude, it's kind of trashy fun. Because, in all honesty, it is trashy fun. It's just, it's not a
I think calling it Phase 2 was probably the worst thing to do with it. I think it just should have been Contracted Part 2.
Yeah, whatever it.
Yeah, I think calling
it Contracted Anthology, something else.
Yeah, I just think calling it Phase 2 was definitely
because then you think that it's going to be like an extension of her story or whatever, and it's
or go that route that the film does at the end. You're like, oh shit, that's what I thought. I thought Phase 2 was like, fuck yeah. All right, maybe I'm going to see something cool. Maybe go in a completely different direction and not make it about STDs this time. But whatever. Okay.
Yeah, so that was that one. So then I also completely forgot that I have a subscription to Shudder, and I don't know how I forgot, but I got an email that was like, hey, you made an automatic payment. And I was like, holy shit, I forgot that I've been paying for this for like 6 months. I should probably watch that. So I checked out a film called Severance.
Severance is great.
Yeah. I had never seen it, never heard of it, but I love, British kind of comedy horror. So I checked that out, and I had a fucking blast. I thought it was great. I love the relationships of, it being, for those who haven't seen it, it's about, people who are coworkers on kind of like those stupid team building retreats, which immediately puts together an awesome group because it's not friends, it's not family, it's people that just work together, which I don't understand why there are not more movies that focus around that sort of relationship, because that's so interesting.
Yeah, I just did like an escape room team building thing with my coworkers not too long ago.
It's the best to watch because you don't have to force the relationship of like, oh, they're related, therefore like blood is thicker than water, and you don't have to force like they've been friends for 30 years. It can be like, nah, Sue fucking hates Jim and wants them to die. Like, that's an amazing way to set up a film, because it just makes it more interesting to play with. So already I was like, yep, I'm in. And then plus it's a horror comedy, which is already kind of a sweet spot for me. It's, kind of a kids in the woods thing, which, I'm going to watch no matter what. It's really funny. It's got kind of a dry sense of humor. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend checking that one out. There's not really much to say. It's not reinventing the wheel, but
it's fun.
It's fun.
The director did Triangle and Black Death. And Creep.
And Get Santa.
Creep, yeah.
The recent Christmas movie,
Oh.
Get Santa.
Oh, that explains. Okay.
Out of nowhere, he did Get Santa.
Wow.
It's not all that bad. Don't trash it. It's not. I watched it with Willow. It's not that bad.
I'm not going to trash it.
I was about to.
Yeah,
well, because you're a piece of shit.
I'm not the market for that one.
Cruising down the street in my 6'4".
Cruising down the street in my 6'4". Smacking the hose.
Okay. So Severance, and then the last one I saw was Shiver of the Vampires.
Ooh.
From 1971. Shiver of the Vampires, I think it's French, maybe? French? I don't know languages. No, just Franco did not do it. It's Gene Rollin.
Oh, Gene Rollin, okay.
Thank you. It kind of falls in that same vein of every other fucking vampire movie that came out in the early 70s. But it's also 70s. That
Jess Franco, like Gene Rollins, very much like he is the French Jess Franco.
Yeah, pretty much. I liked it. See, the premise is what hooked me because. So a couple is going out into the country to meet their cousins, like to go visit them. They arrive and discover their cousins died the day before. Like, what kind of shitty vacation are you going on? Like, we're going to go visit our cousins. And they go and show up and it's like, oh, they died yesterday. That sucks. And of course they're greeted by these two, like Renfield type characters, that are like super hot and seductive and,
of course,
totally brainwashed, which I love because the Renfield archetype is my favorite of any of the vampire kind of genre. So the fact that I'm getting multiple makes me happy. But yeah, it's, very kind of early 70s vampire movie. You're not going to get anything that you haven't already seen. Everyone in it's wicked hot. So you got that going for you.
Well, the thing with Gene Rollins' films is that he might not have, the horror aspect or the gore aspect or thrilling or suspenseful or anything, really. His films are very beautiful, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Just the atmosphere and the surroundings.
But that's kind of the same thing. But I would argue that for a lot of that, like that, just that time period, I don't know about everybody else, but when somebody's like, hey, it's a vampire movie from the 70s, I'm like, okay, so it's going to be really pretty, it's going to be very atmospheric, it's going to have
everybody's going to be super sweaty.
There's going to be a glow to everything. Everyone's hair is going to be perfectly like coiffed and teased. Everybody's going to look ethereal as fuck. And that's just how it is. Everyone's going to walk as if they're floating, whether or not they're a vampire or not. And that's just how everything is. Everything's drapey and flowy and gorgeous. And that's just what it is. That was its own kind of style and subgenre of vampire films. And that was just the way they were made back then. And that's cool. And I like it, but we have a million of them. But yeah, so it's kind of like almost erotic, but not quite. Not as erotic as I would have liked it to have been. But almost. But I wouldn't not recommend it. I think it's one of the better ones that I've seen from that time period. It's not bad by any means, but
I think it's a redemption title, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know. I watched it off Shudder, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I think it's a redemption. Most of Gene Rollins' films are redemption. Redemption's the label that releases them.
Okay.
Yeah, they do all like the erotic vampire movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, more than likely then.
It's like 80% of his movies. That and zombies.
Zombie Lake.
Yeah, I would assume then it's probably redemption title, but either way, it's on Shudder. You can watch it. And speaking of Shudder, I need to talk to them. Shudder has so many incredible films, but why the actual hell in their alphabetical did they lump all of the titles together? Like, I was scrolling through it, and then I got to the T's, and it was like the Abyss, something. I was like, you've got to be fucking me right now. Like, no! That just makes everything so much more difficult. Anyway, minor rant. So be aware, if you're using Shudder, all the thes are lumped together.
No taken. I don't use Shudder, but I like what they're doing.
You should. They have, their collections are crazy. Like, they have so much. That's how I watched, oh, God, what is that? That movie you had me watch that's really screwed up with the kids, that, the Joel Edgerton film.
Oh, Acolytes?
Thank you. Yeah, I watched it off of Shudder, because that was the quickest way I could find it.
Acolytes is great.
Yeah, they have so many films that, like, you can't get off Netflix. It's like a kind of a love child between Netflix and the stuff on Amazon Prime, plus some other stuff. They get a lot of titles that... They get a lot of Scream Factory stuff. They get a lot of other random stuff. Like, you can watch The Battery and stuff on it, which is cool. I don't know. I have to look into what all they've acquired.
Yeah, I've looked at the
there's
beta.
There's a lot of stuff.
Even when the beta was, they had a lot of crazy shit on there. So
yeah,
pretty cool.
A lot of Asian cinema too, which is cool.
Yeah.
That's it.
I guess I will go. I have kind of a short stack. I got around to watching. Is that a laugh, Sean? Was that you?
Yeah.
I got to the sequel of All Hallows Eve, which I was a fan of the first one. If no one knows what that's about, you've probably seen the cover a million times. It has a clown on the front, and his name is Art. All Hallows Eve was directed by Damien Leone, I think his name was. It's not really a feature film. Damien, with his friends, made a few short films together based around this clown, Art the Clown. One was like Terrifier. I can't remember one of the other shorts. Well, anyways, to put a feature together, they made a surrounding story where this girl gets a videotape when she goes out trick-or-treating. The babysitter watches it, and the anthology unfolds. And everything was basically, aside from the VHS tape watching and an additional new short that they filmed, everything was pre-existing. It was just an easy way for them to get a feature, maybe get some money, funding for their next movie. It was kind of a cool concept to do, even though it's, in a way, it's cheap, but it's smart. So, of course, when LRJ picked that up, and that was a very successful title for them, they released it on Blu-ray. After, the DVD was out. So, of course, what do? They jump on the bandwagon and say, hey, submit us your shorts, and we're going to put it together in an anthology. And we get All Hallows Eve 2. Same premise. Girl is alone. She sees this weird person standing in the street with a pumpkin mask and a knife, leaves a tape at her doorstep. She puts it in, and here the shorts unfold. However, the shorts are actually pretty cool. They're not that bad. There was one that I saw at Fantastic Fest a couple years ago that was in it, which I was very happy to see again because I really liked it. It's called Jack Attack. This little
Jack Attack is really cool.
Yeah, Jack Attack's a lot of fun, and that's the first opening short, so it kind of sets the bar pretty high in a way. And then other short, Julian Richards is in one, or is it Julian Richings or Richard? I can't remember.
I couldn't tell you.
When you see him, you'll know who he is. He's like in every horror film. So, it has this, it has like 4 or 5 shorts, and does, a wraparound. Of course, the only new footage that was probably filmed was the videotape footage. But it's a fun little anthology. It's a quick and easy, very short. The credits are fucking longer than the actual movie, I think, because they do individual credits for each film.
Oh, okay.
And it's a long, literally, I sat there and watched it because I wanted to know the names of the shorts. And I think I sat there for like 15, 20 minutes. It was ridiculous.
So is it like the end of ABC's of Death?
No, it's longer than that, it seems. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, dang.
So, yeah, it's definitely a fun. I prefer the first one just because I like Art the Clown quite a bit. And if you do watch All Hallows Eve, stay after the credits because the creepiest moment in the entire film is the end credits when Art pops up again. But really a deep, like, if you're scared of clowns or have any fear, this movie could scare, the first film could scare the shit out of you, especially Terrifier. Terrifier is really fucking good. But yeah, definitely, it'll be cheap, probably at, Target, Walmart, Best Buy. Definitely pick it up, support the label. Maybe we'll have more shorts to get, because that's the thing with shorts is that, we see them, like, especially myself, if you go to film festivals, we see these really great shorts. And then we never ever hear of them or see them again. Yeah. Unless you kind of seek them out and maybe the filmmaker uploaded it on his Vimeo account years later. So that's the one thing that really, really sucks is, there's a lot of great shorts. Like I know one was released on iTunes. This is a different tangent, but it's fine. It's promoting. You remember Stage Fright, the musical that came out a few years ago?
Are you talking about Legend of...
Yeah, The Legend of Beaver Dam.
Beaver Dam, that's what it is.
Yeah, Legend of Beaver Dam is incredible. And it took a long time for that to get any notoriety until, like, he got the money for Stage Fright. They released it on iTunes for, like, $1 to buy. And I think
it's really on great. YouTube now.
Yeah, and eventually it was uploaded online. I know Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Melton, the Collectors, Saw guys, they had a short.
They're so good.
It was called The Candidate. That is really fucking good. Like, that's literally probably my favorite short of all time. And that's incredible. And it took a long time for that actually to get online. So this is cool that, a company is going around doing this. They kind of did the same thing. Dread Central kind of did the same thing for Zombie World, but they literally picked the worst shorts possible. Like, those shorts are fucking awful.
Well, so I've been wondering about this for a while, too, is that, because right now there's 2 short films on Netflix. There's Kung Fury and World of Tomorrow are both on Netflix, and they're both, like, I think, like, 20, 30-minute films, which, obviously those aren't, like, super short, but they're still considered short films.
Right, they're still shorts. Yeah, they're
so
under 65
I'm wondering
minutes.
Do you think that they're looking to kind of open that sort of... Sorry, I'm cooking food because I'm...
Who's backing up?
No, I'm cooking food because I'm starving. I haven't eaten at all today. Anyway, I don't know if that's something that they're looking to do. I think that it'd be a brilliant move because
I think it would be great.
For the most part,
and
there's
have a short
really
section.
Absolutely, there's really no place for, like you said, there's no place for short films to go with outside of
maybe
uploading it to Vimeo.
Yeah, or maybe the director has, a Blu-ray come out of his feature and they tag the short on the special features. But I mean, that would be fantastic if Vudu or Netflix, they actually had a short section, because some nights at 10:30 I'm like, you know what, I'm not that tired yet, but I'm not gonna. Wow, you're actually getting the plate out of. Okay, so we're gonna actually follow BJ with curing her starvation.
Yes.
Making me hungry now. I can smell it through the mic.
I'm trying to mute myself so you can't hear me getting the plate out of the microwave, and I didn't click it soon enough.
So, I think that would be really cool to actually see maybe a short side, because like I said, maybe sometimes 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night, I'm not really that tired, but I really don't watch TV shows, so I don't want to watch an episode of something because of that, but something quick and easy, like a short film of 20 minutes, yeah, I'll be down.
Yeah, totally.
There's some incredible, like, I wish I could curate something like that, because I've seen hundreds of short films, and so many fall by the wayside, and that's exactly what I'm going to do for the ScreamCast.com. I just now thought about it. I promise I will bring
That's a great idea.
A short a week I promise. I'll bring you a short.
You can have
week,
any of mine.
and I will feature BJ. And Zach has such a good one. We talked about it on the Linnea Quigley episode, and your abortion one too, or your
thanks.
That one made me fucking laugh. It's really
good. It should.
Yeah. So kudos to BJ and Zach. They actually do make some fancy short films. But yeah, there's countless short films. I can't wait till people see the Babysitter Murders. That was last year. It's so fucking good. So incredible. So anyways, All Hallows Eve, support short films because that's how people get to do their features. Hopefully they don't make features of the short films because those usually aren't very good. Next up is this movie. It's called Painkillers, another RLJ Entertainment. A bunch of soldiers go on a mission in Afghanistan to fight, of course, everybody says, the Taliban, like every fucking white person. They go to Afghanistan, hunt them down. They encounter something of the supernatural source. They all suffer from amnesia. They're put into a program at basically a lab for them to regain their memory to find out what happened. And it sounds like a cool concept. However, they allude to so many things, you're never given a full answer. Spoiler alert. Sorry. But if you want to watch it, that's fine. It's just one of those films that you wish that you would have thought of so you can do it your way because you feel that your way would be better. But is
it the zombie Taliban?
No, it actually is extraterrestrial is what they
lame.
They kind of go towards. And I'm a big alien.
More soldiers with aliens. Boo-hoo.
But it's another level than that, which I kind of like because there is kind of this. I don't want to. I already gave kind of it away. The soldiers believe that they are. They wake up and they're like, "Oh, I'm this soldier that was fighting good. I'm a good person," and then they kind of find out that they're kind of pieces of shit, some of them, because then they start remembering what they did, and they're like, holy shit, I'm actually a bad person? Well, fuck it, I'm a bad person now, so I'm going to kill everybody. It's that type of thing. So it actually has a lot of cool things going for it. It's just, however, they don't achieve the levels of awesomeness that they put out there just a little bit. It's like it's just not a very well-written script is what it is. They should have toned down on the drama and focused a lot more on kind of the relationship between people and kind of the deception that is there. Next up, we talked about Jess Franco earlier, and I bring up Jess Franco a lot. Blue Underground.
Did you watch another Jess Franco movie?
I watched another. Seriously, if you have a pile of 1,000 movies and you pull one out, 9 out of 10 times it's going to be a Jess Franco movie. Dude has like fucking 500 movies under his belt. It's ridiculous. So anyways, Blue Underground released these incredible sets, these 3-disc limited editions of 2 Jess Franco films. It has the soundtrack in it, DVD, Blu-ray, this booklet. I mean, they really fucking went all out on these releases. This one is Eugenie, if you want to be all technical. However, this is a shorter film by Jess Franco. It was made in the 70s. It is awesome because Christopher Lee is in it. And it's weird seeing Christopher Lee in a Jess Franco movie. I've never seen Christopher Lee in a Jess Franco movie. I don't know if I'm totally blind. I got my blinders on, or if this is a common occurrence, other than maybe Dracula, because I just watched that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. Christopher Lee was awesome in Jess Franco's Dracula. I'm going to give this a shot. So it might be working together a lot. However, I'm going to check them all down because Christopher Lee is pretty cool in this. And it's weird because he is into S&M. It's a kind of this, Marquis de Sade type web of, murder, fantasies, drugs, S&M. you just see this woman who is very innocent, gets brought into this world of all of this crazy shit. And it is a really beautiful movie. It does this 4K scan of the 35 millimeters, so it looks great. That's the one thing about Jess Franco I always credit him with, same with Gene Roland, is that visually their movies are stunning. However, I think there's kind of a lost in translation thing whenever the movies unfold, because sometimes you're sitting there and you're like, what the fuck is this movie about? I have no idea. Lesbian rock and roll vampires? What the fuck? You know, that's not in this movie. That's another movie that Jess Franco did. So anyways, it's kind of a girl who gets brought in this web of, you know, this fucking S&M like world where there's also murder being around, and she kind of catches on early and tries to kind of escape from these people. Kind of suspenseful, kind of a murder mystery. A lot of sexy time, a lot of boobies, but actually a decent film. It doesn't do anything new. It's just, you know, a decent script, some good acting, especially on Lee's part. So definitely if you're into Jess Franco, it's right up your alley, and plus it's a decent movie. You know, it's a lot of fun.
Cool.
And not really much to say. I mean, you know, very standard little storyline, but visually it's
You seem to be warming up to Jess Franco.
Pleasurable. Yeah. I would say the last two films I've had a good experience. So I'm going to look to see if any other movies of Christopher Lee. He might have a barrage of them. I don't know. I didn't know he really worked with Lee all that much. Next up is a film directed by our beloved Roger Christensen, who did Battlefield Earth.
Oh boy.
But before he did Battlefield Earth, he worked with George Lucas on Star Wars. And when Star Wars was first released in theaters, they did he had a short film he wrote and directed called Black Angel. And if you were lucky enough, your theater screened Black Angel. It was a 20-minute short before Star Wars. And a funny story about Black Angel, the print was supposedly destroyed, never heard of again until last year, or actually the end of 2014, I think it was November. They were cleaning out some museum, and they found a print of the actual film.
That's so cool.
They remastered it. They put it on iTunes to buy for a few dollars, and it was the first time that Black Angel could be seen again after all this time. Great short film. Right after he worked with that, he did something with Alien. I think he did DP or something of that nature. Well, however, then he did one of his first. I don't know if it was his first feature. However, he did a horror film called The Sender. The Sender is about opens up with a man who's trying to kill himself. He's trying to drown himself at the beach by putting like rocks and shit in his pants and trying to drown himself. So he goes to the hospital and he's basically suffering from amnesia and kind of doesn't know who he is or anything like that. And so the doctors start doing tests. And they find the main doctor, played by Catherine, whatever's her last name, goddamn, she's pretty too. So anyways, the lead doctor that's is treating him, she starts seeing and hearing things that are weird, and she doesn't know how to really explain them. I'm not going to dive too much into it because it gives stuff away. However, she realizes that what she is seeing and hearing is a connection to her patient. And it really is a fun little horror film, psychological terror in a way, a lot of fun. I know Tarantino's a huge fan of this movie. And that's originally how I think I pulled it off my shelf of VHS tapes, because I had, fucking thousands of tapes. And it was always one that I remember seeing cover art to, but just never really watched. And when I heard that he really liked it, I wanted to give it a shot. And I was pleasantly surprised. Olive Films released it on Blu-ray finally. This has been out for a little while. I think it came back in October, but I just now got around to it. But yeah, I rewatched it again after all these years. Still really stands out from your kind of normal 80s horror films. Like, it really tried to do something different, and it was a lot of fun. So I definitely suggest you check it out because I believe it's extremely underseen. So
very cool.
That's it. Battlefield
Wow.
Earth, Roger Christensen, yeah. So
you made me think of something that I wanted to actually bring up to you guys. When you were talking about like guy trying to like drown himself with rocks or whatever on the beach, and I know I've mentioned the website on the site before, but do you guys ever read dreamanddemon.com?
no.
I do
Okay.
not.
So dreamanddemon.com is just like the scourge of the world. It is a site that compiles all of the real life true headlines of like the craziest crimes that are committed around the country. Like, whenever you see those headlines that are like, woman beats husband with squirrel because he wouldn't change the sofa or whatever, like they compile all of that. So like the weird ones, but then they also do ones that are like kind of sad, like, woman microwaves baby for 3 days, like something crazy awful. But there was one that I read yesterday where a husband had tried to drown himself by using his wife's decapitated head as a weight.
Oh my God.
In the lake. And which I read that, I was like, that wouldn't make sense. That would float. But what he did is he like cut his wife into like a bunch of little pieces, and then he put her head in like a bucket and filled it with cement, and then he wanted to use that as his weight to drown himself, but then like he got busted before he could do it. Has that been used in a film before? Because I was reading it and I was like, God, that sounds very familiar, like something that I've seen. I figured you guys would know more than I would, because I feel like Brad would know this, like, oh, that was in such and such movie directed by so and so. But like, has that happened where someone's like tried to use the remains of someone that they've killed as like the weight to kill themselves, or just like the weight in general for something?
No, I don't know of anything.
I just found the story.
It's crazy, right?
This website is like the reason why I avoid just the nightly news. So I don't know if I need a whole website dedicated to this
nuts.
shit. Wow.
Like, the problem with that website, though, is that you will be on it for hours. You will just lose time because you'll read it and you're like, what?
Oh my God.
This is not real. Like, and some of them are super funny. Like, Meth Head tries to like fight self in mirror reflection at Walmart. Like, that's super funny to me. Like, that's never not going to be funny, but then it'll like the way that they describe things is always good. Like, whenever they cover like people, like teachers that are getting busted with their students, they usually handle it in a really good way where they like completely shame the shit out of the teacher without ever saying anything terrible about the kid. Because usually sometimes news sites will cover it and they'll be like, this kid should have been glad that teacher's hot. But instead they'll be like, this teacher should stop sucking so much 16-year-old dick. Like, and you're like, yeah, she shouldn't. That's awful. Yeah, it's a great site. But if you ever need like an interesting or unique way to kill someone for your screenplay, Dreamin' Demons got you covered with actual ways people have done crazy ass shit.
Wow. I'll put a link in the show notes for all of you to ruin your days with.
Yep. Say goodbye to a couple hours.
Wow.
It's going away.
All right. Well, speaking of morbid shit, we are going to jump into some stuff here. We've, the past few weeks, it's just been like a landslide since the new year of people dying. I mean, it kind of got kicked off with Lemmy Kilmister of Motorhead. He died on December 28th, and that was kind of a big blow to everybody because Lemmy is fucking awesome. I mean, he's best.
God, man.
He's the best part of anything. Whenever he shows up, it's just fun. I mean, Hardware, he's great. Has a small part in that. But in the documentary series that came out about
Decline of
Western Civilization, and he's in the second one, the one about all the 80s hair bands, and his interview is like the best thing out of on that whole set. He doesn't give a shit. He's just cool as hell, just saying it like it is, standing on top of this hill around sunset, smoking on a cigarette. It's great. But to have Lemmy pass away at the age of 70 to prostate cancer, was it prostate cancer or
Yesterday they said it was prostate cancer along with cardiac arrhythmia.
Okay.
Congestive heart failure.
Yeah. So to have him pass away at 70 was huge. And then the next one that threw everyone for a loop was a huge blow was David Bowie. And he died on the 10th of January, and he was suffering from cancer as well. I'm not sure exactly.
Blood cancer.
Yeah, exactly. Liver cancer
Truth.
is what I'm seeing. He had liver cancer. He recorded his final album after being diagnosed with cancer, which is incredible. Black Star.
And right after his birthday.
Yeah.
His album was released on his birthday.
Yeah.
And he died like 2 days ago.
God, that's crazy. He was 69. And then, I mean, more.
We also had Angus Scrim.
Yep. Like, we covered Angus, we recorded talking about Angus Scrim, and then, like, hours after we were done recording.
Oh, yeah, David Bowie.
Yeah, like, we went to bed, or at least I did, because it was fucking 1 a.m, went to bed, and that's when I was seeing things about David Bowie being dead, and people were like, oh, it's a hoax. And then I woke up, and I was like, oh, shit,
I couldn't sleep
it's not.
that night. I couldn't sleep, because that's the last thing I saw before I was going to go to bed, was about Bowie, and that was crazy. And then Alan Rickman dies at age 69 on the 14th. There's been other musicians as well.
The Eagles, Glenn Frey.
Yeah, Glenn Frey, and the voice of
Grizzly Adams died.
Yeah, Grizzly Adams. He was in a lot of horror films too.
The voice of Robin Hood and Disney's Robin Hood, which is probably my favorite Disney movie of all time. That actor died, but it was like within a few weeks. We lose this incredible amount of. Well,
I know that
talent.
there's one thing that because I didn't know if sites were doing it as a joke, but they were like, because I think like the drummer of Crosby, Stills and Nash died. The drummer for Mott the Hoople, or is it Hoople? I always forget. Of course, I think they played with Bowie too. But it's just this, like, all these like articles about people dying, and I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't know if people were doing it like as a joke.
Right.
Like, hey, this, manager of this band from 1969 to 1970 died yesterday. That's what it, like, I saw a couple other articles of, like, people dying. I'm like, who is this? Like, I mean, everybody that dies, of course, is important because it's, it's somebody to somebody,
Yeah.
So, but it was just like, playing off the kind of this death thing. And I was like, God damn, that's so, like, that's weird and sinister and also clickbaity. Like, come on, man.
Yeah,
so
I saw a joke one today, and I was like, ugh, I forget where.
Well, there was another one where it's like Keith Richards is not dead in his hotel room. I kind of giggled.
Oh no, the one I saw was Animal, the Muppet died.
Oh,
that was kind of funny.
That makes me so sad.
But
I was like, really? Come on.
It is this. At first, I mean, we're only into January. I'm sorry, I'm yawning.
You're gonna be okay?
Yeah, I think so. January 20th, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's just like one. This is like taking the place of like shootings across America.
I know, huh? Friggin', and it's all like age. People past their 60s, and it's friggin' cancer.
Fucking cancer, man. Cancer sucks.
So what I don't know how I wanted to handle this. I wanted to bring them up, but I wanted to maybe, especially if Bowie and because he was such a creative force in like so many films, both on the screen and musically. So I didn't know if we wanted to go around and kind of give a favorite Bowie moment? Some of our favorite Bowie moments in entertainment?
I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, like, I can be quick with that because, I mean, I've always thought Bowie is great. You know, I loved a lot of his songs. You know, his kind of sci-fi, you know, rock opera persona that he did with Ziggy Stardust. I always kind of liked that. I mean, Life on Mars, I think, was probably my, you know, favorite song. You know, but he wasn't like, you know, I wouldn't say I was a huge Bowie fan. I just enjoyed his music. And, you know, even the movies that he was in, some of them I wasn't a big fan of the film, but I actually liked watching him. You know, especially like in, Labyrinth. He's just so weird. Like, I don't like that movie at all, but I always enjoyed watching him. But yeah, I'm not a fan. Dude, I don't like that fantasy shit. I didn't like Dark Crystal. I didn't like Princess Bride. I didn't like Labyrinth. I didn't like that kind of stuff.
You probably saw them when you're too old. I saw them when I was like...
No, I saw them when I was
8.
young. I'm not a fan of the fantasy genre like that. But anyways, I mean, he was always fun. And I think that, you know, he was essential in the music industry because he gave... you know, this kind of this weird, you know, when 70s rock was really popular, he kind of gave this, I don't know, this kind of like fashionable, I don't know, that just a weird persona, you know? I mean, he had the whole Ziggy Stardust thing, but he was just a weird guy. And he was showing that weird is okay and embrace it and be who you are. And I think that helped a lot of people in many ways, music and in life. So he was very encouraging in that force of being who you want to be, and it's okay. So I think it's a good, you know, he sent a good message out, and I think he kept it up because he was always kind of a cool guy. You know, and you know, it was, you know, sad to see him go, of course, especially right after his birthday, his last album. You know, but he did go out with a bang.
Yeah, man. If you're gonna go out,
does an album like when he knows he's diagnosed, and you know, did like a photo shoot as well. I think that's pretty cool.
And then
it's like that's how Mozart went out, and like that's all I could think about when, you know, when he passed, and you know, then all the reports came out that, you know, he knew he was going to go, and this is how he went. I was like, that's when Mozart wrote his, you know, his Requiem. He knew he was going to die. I was like, that just shows like the true masterful artistry that he had.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, Bowie was kind of,
you know, that also traveled with his son, making a couple, you know, kind of bringing in the science fiction world between, you know, Moon and, you know, the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. I forget the name of it now. Source Code.
And he's doing the Warcraft movie.
Yeah. I mean, and that's also rubbing off
Duncan Jones.
Rubbing off on his son, making these, you know, when he very first heard he was doing Moon, I was like, how appropriate is that? You know, his son's very first film was a space station science fiction movie. You know, I thought it was always cool too. You know, he's a very inspiring man, and will always be inspiring. And I think you know, it's one of those things where, you know, he created such a legacy and will be remembered forever. Like, he'll never die out. You know, and I think he achieved everything you could ever want in life on that, because I think one of the things that is one of my main goals is to inspire and never be forgotten, and keep inspiring people to do things based on what I've done. Like that, I think that's a crowning achievement. I think that's the end all be all, is, you know, create a legacy and have people follow it and be inspired and be like, you know what, David Bowie like inspired me to do this, or anybody of that nature. I think that's a really fucking cool thing, like to live a life and have that fucking cool. Like it's to me, it's super fucking cool.
Yeah. You
know, all like artistry, like between directors, writers, painters. Like, you know, you just mentioned Mozart. Like, Mozart will never ever go, like, we'll never forget about those types of things. They'll never be buried. They'll never disappear. And I think that's fucking awesome. And I think David Bowie achieved that, so.
BJ, how about you? What are your...
David Bowie was kind of my gateway drug into a lot of... I think a major part of what I like and who I am. And it's a personal story, but it's a quick one. So I know I've talked about my parents, they were big into horror and they kind of let me watch whatever I want. But my parents are also, pretty conservative Republican type people. And they showed me what they liked. So things like David Bowie or like Rocky Horror or things that were, very fringe was like, they weren't against me seeing it, but it's not something that interested them. So it wasn't something they were going to seek out and show me. So I was 14 and it was the first time that I had ever been like, the first time you are knowingly defiant, like when I am deliberately lying to my parents and I am being a bad kid right now.
Yes.
So it was like my third week of high school. I just made all of these new friends in like the theater and music group. And it was my friend's birthday and we drove up to Milwaukee to go to this restaurant for her birthday. And she was the biggest and still is biggest David Bowie fan I've ever met in my life. And all she wanted for her birthday was to go to this restaurant. And then we were going to go home and get high and watch Labyrinth. Like, that's all she wanted to do. And my parents were not against any of it, but they were totally against their 14-year-old going up to Milwaukee with a bunch of high school kids. Like, they were not cool with that. So I lied, like you do, and I went to Milwaukee anyway, and I had never seen Labyrinth before. And I went back to, the place afterwards, and we watched Labyrinth. And my parents, who had seen Labyrinth, drilled me about it when I got home the next day because they knew, because I'm a terrible liar, that I had gone to Milwaukee and I had lied to them about it. So they drilled me about Labyrinth. They're like, well, what happened in it? And what happened next? And what was he wearing? And why did she say this? And what does this mean? And I was too high to function because I was 14 and stupid, that I got everything wrong and I gave all these like stupid philosophical answers, and they're like, you lied to us and you did this. But for whatever reason, that moment of I just got in trouble and I went to this restaurant and saw this weird ass movie. This is awesome. Like, this is so punk rock and cool. And because of that, I then started seeking out more of that because I knew like mom and dad don't like this. So then it became appealing. So that's when I started searching out things like Hedwig and the Angry Inch and the Rocky Horror Picture Show and a lot of the fringy queer cinema that I love so dearly, that has become such an integral part of who I am. And it all started from, lying to my parents and watching David Bowie movies.
Nice.
So because of that, David Bowie will always have a very, very special place in my heart as being like, that was my gateway of being a bad kid and doing something that I wasn't supposed to do was David Bowie. And, it just was further cemented, later in life when I saw The Hunger for the first time. I saw The Hunger right around the same time I saw Fright Night. We already know the effect that Fright Night had on me. And it says a lot about me that both of the Sarandons, man, they do some stuff.
Susan Sarandon in The Hunger, man.
Oh, dude, right?
Damn.
She's so fine in that movie.
Smoking.
But just David Bowie in that movie. He's decrepit and, he's falling apart, and his old age makeup on it is so weird looking. But that movie is just kind of like that weird psychosexual, kind of gender politics. And it's also, very, I don't even know, but that's another thing that like really draws me into horror, is I like when they play with kind of the sexual politics within the genre, because it is scary and it is confusing. And, Bowie was a part of that too. And,
I actually watched The Hunger the morning that, the day after we recorded, and I wasn't entirely sure why I decided to watch it, but I think it's because for whatever reason it was therapeutic for me to watch him fall apart the way he does in that movie. Mm-hmm. It made it kind of like final for me to know, like, yeah, he's gone, and to see it with my eyes, even though it's, fictionalized and I've seen the movie, a dozen times, but seeing him in the old age makeup and like seeing him that way, I think made it a little bit human for me, because when you think of David Bowie, you do think of Ziggy Stardust and kind of this alien, otherworldly kind of thing. Like, David Bowie has never been human to me. He's always been an alien. Yeah. So that kind of brought it down to earth for me, which I think I needed. I don't know. It's weird that I'm finally at the age where these celebrities who have had such a profound impact on me are going to start passing. And that's, I think, a very strange thing to come to terms with. I mean, like, I saw the way my mom reacted when, like, Davy Jones died, and, like, you would have thought that, like, somebody killed her brother. Like, she was mortified for days, and I never really understood that. But, sorry, apparently someone else is dying because there's 1,000 sirens going on.
Some shit going on.
Yeah, one moment. I'm going to pause my mic. Don't live in the hood, guys.
I think to piggyback off what kind of BJ was saying is that how these deaths are kind of affecting us now. Imagine what it's going to be like, in anytime that somebody of kind of our decade, kind of our generation, when they pass, because we are now so in touch with kind of people, like we with social media, we can literally tell, one of our favorite writers or directors, or authors or painters or anybody that inspires us. We can say, hey man, really enjoyed your work. And they can respond, hey, yeah, great. And then they'll follow you on Twitter, and then you'll talk to them back and forth.
Right.
Now it's getting so personal that when these people do die, I've never met Wes Craven, but when he died, that was a big thing for me because of how much he inspired me. Imagine, like, when someone passes that, you talk, like, what if you talk to him, like, on a weekly basis? Or, you just casually.
There's a couple of them that, like, I'm not going to say on the air or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I have
never. But, like, there are some that, donated and sent me letters when I was sick. Like, people that I worshipped who, personally reached out to me and they're like, hey, you're sick, I want to help you, you're a fan of my work and I'm a fan of you, kind of thing. And it's just, that's so surreal to me. And to know that sort of mortality exists, because I'm weirdly in tune with my mortality and with the mortality around me, which I think is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing in the fact that, like, I get over it a little quicker than I think most people, because I've been there. But it's also a curse because I think I'm a lot more expecting of it, and it's made me a little bit hardened because of it. So I don't get quite as devastated, which I don't like. I like being upset and crying. I think that it's cathartic, and I think that it's necessary, and I don't get to do that over death as much as I used to. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, 20, 30 years from now, it's going to be a lot weirder, because we're not going to be, pulling up from the archives the time we wrote a fan letter and they replied to us 3 months later. We're going to be pulling up, like, photographs from conventions and, conversations that we had, one-on-one, because everybody is so much more accessible than they used to be.
Yeah,
and
it's gonna be really crazy
weird
now. Like
Yeah.
it's because it's one of those things where you have those people that say, well, you didn't know them. Well, yeah, they kind of did, but now it's going to be like, yeah, I kind of did. I talked to them.
Yeah.
I had a running DM with them on Twitter because they liked what I said, and then we actually became friends. It's happened to me. I've said something about, somebody I like, or like, hey man, this movie's really cool. And then it's like, you talk to the director and then you become friends and then you get their phone and then you text them and then you become friends. Like that's what's going to happen because even though a person's a friend or you correspond with them, occasionally, now you have this really personal connection with them. And that's really going to fucking suck.
Yeah.
Because now you're actually going to be losing not only someone that inspires you, but you're going to be losing a friend. And that is devastating. So.
Yeah.
Sorry to fucking, that's
way
a
to go,
downer. Jesus.
Brad.
We just brought the whole room down.
Yeah. No, David Bowie, what I liked the most about him, I like that he was kind of a multi-format artist. He didn't limit himself just to music, and he expanded his artistic, arms, and did film and music and inspired so much more art. He was visual. He was a visual person, a visual artist. And he was good in the films that he was in, you can always say when he was The Hunger, he's fantastic. Labyrinth is probably my earliest recollection of him as an actor. But even in films like The Prestige, when he plays Tesla, he's really great.
Oh yeah, he's great
in that role. And then I almost feel like I discovered his music. I dug into his music later on. After I must have seen him in film first in Labyrinth, and then saw him throughout the years in different things, and then knew of his music, but didn't really start digging into it. I have a handful of his records that I'll pop on every now and then, but yeah, he was one of those guys. Like you guys have mentioned, he seemed otherworldly, like he wasn't gonna die. And I haven't seen The Man Who Fell to Earth. It's on my giant list of shame.
It's so cool.
Well, the friggin'
it's a really bizarro movie.
Criterion Blu-ray is always is out of print. It's on Hulu, isn't it? Hell yes.
I think it's on Hulu.
I think you're right. I think I just recently added it. I finally started browsing through Criterion on Hulu. Cool. So I will definitely make it a point to watch that. But I don't know. You always just imagined Bowie young, even when you see pictures of him older, it's almost like he's not that old in a weird way. You just can't, almost your brain almost can't process it. So I don't know. He will definitely be missed, of course, in art and film and music.
So the other major death that we had, and I'm not trying to say that anyone else who has passed recently is not as important.
Yeah, you're going to start a shitstorm.
Right. I'm not trying to say the other ones aren't as important. Just these are, the two that we chose to focus on, but the other big one was Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman is, for those of you who know, just a very, very accomplished performer of both the stage and the screen, and he meant a lot to a lot of people for a variety of his roles. I was first introduced to him in a little film called Die Hard, as did most people, as Hans Gruber.
Yes.
Which was kind of his breakout into the mainstream public's eye. I mean, he'd been doing things on the stage for fucking decades, absolutely killing it, but Hans Gruber was really what shot him to the limelight.
Isn't that amazing that was his first
it's
film role? He was on TV and stuff, but that was his first film role, and he just kills the role, and it's still one of the most memorable roles.
It's iconic, is what it is. Like, to think that your first real, he'd done some stuff that had been recorded for, I think he did, some Shakespeare that had been recorded before, but like your first mainstream feature film, like Hollywood movie, and it's fucking Hans Gruber, like that's awesome. 'Cause he's fucking Alan Rickman and he's amazing.
Well, his voice is just...
And that's the thing. He's got a voice like a Vincent Price, where you hear it and you know immediately who he is. It doesn't matter in what context, what he's saying, you know, oh, Alan Rickman. Boom. And you can emulate it all you want, but it's just, you're not Alan Rickman. And that's just, he's so cool. And yeah, Brad can roll his eyes at me all he wants, but you need to also take into account, I'm 25. Like, remember that for a second. I was 11 when the first Harry Potter movie came out. Do I appreciate that, you know, I saw him as Hans Gruber first? Absolutely. I saw him in Dogma before I saw him in Harry Potter. Again, parents make great decisions and let me watch movies way too young. But he is Severus Snape to me because that's what I grew up with for over a decade. Mm-hmm. I grew up with that character similarly to the way that, you know, people see, you know, Robert Englund and he is Freddy Krueger because that's what you were, you know, that's what you watched him as for years and years and years. So from, you know, age 11 to age, you know, 21, 22, when the films were, you know, finalized for me, he was Severus Snape. And he was this awful villain who then, you know, turned out to be this incredible hero. And that showed, you know, not only the strength of those films to me, but the strength of Alan Rickman as an actor. Because what a lot of people don't realize that are not like super fucking dorks like myself is that Alan Rickman knew how Harry Potter was going to end before anyone else did. Mm-hmm. Because J.K. Rowling told him ahead of time, this is your through line. I need you to keep this in mind, you know, to play it this way at the beginning so that by the end it all makes sense. So he knew from the get-go. And none of us knew. Like, none of us caught on the twist, the ending, whatever, until the final moments when it happened. And that just goes to show you how incredible of a performer that he is, that once it happens, you go back, you rewatch it, and you see all these subtle nuances that he put in that you never would have noticed unless it was pointed out to you. And they're brilliant. They're so small and yet so important. And it just shows the skill and just the passion that he had for performance and the dedication that he had to really creating a fully rounded character. And I think that's what so many actors today lose, is that they don't put the work in to create these characters. And like Severus Snape, you can, you know, blow him up as like these popcorn movies all you want. Severus Snape and, you know, McGonagall with, you know, Maggie Smith, when you put these classically trained British actors into these characters, they really bring them to life. And he breathed life into this character. He became this character. And that's why I think people love it so much and why they were so upset and so affected. And everyone wants to dismiss it as like, oh, you just like Harry Potter, blah. He's did so much more than that. Yeah, well, no shit, he's done more than Harry Potter. But he was so good at what he did because he's the one person who, when we read those books and we watch those films, nothing has changed. It's the same thing we all imagined it in our brains reading the books because he did the work. He nailed it. And he's just a brilliant performer. He just was so incredible in those roles. And, you know, it really broke my heart when he was gone, because that's one of the, like, that was the start for me of like, oh my God, like the people that are the characters that, you know, took me through my childhood, like they're starting to go. And that's step one. And we really did lose one of the greatest performers. People can call him monotone all they want. You got to look at the subtlety of his work. He is brilliant.
Well, he took a role in a comedy in Galaxy Quest. That's a riff on Spock.
Yeah.
And that is like he takes that role and makes it his own, and it's one of my favorite characters in that film. This failed Shakespearean actor,
And there's an art to playing the straight man. And like that's the other thing too, is everybody's like, oh well, it's not that funny to just like play it, a through line or blah, blah, blah. No, like, do you know how fucking obnoxious it is to watch a bunch of people that are just blah, blah, blah all the time? It's exhausting. You need the people that are good at just giving it to you straight and like straight to the point. Here's the fact. This is the joke. This is how it goes.
Yeah.
And he could do it effortlessly. He was so fucking good at it that, it was intimidating. And that's why I like, when, as much as I completely dislike Kevin Smith, I've really enjoyed seeing all of the posts that he's been writing about Alan Rickman and what it was like to work with him, and, Jason Mewes memorizing everyone's lines on Dogma because he didn't want to, piss off Alan Rickman.
Wow.
And like that goes to show you the kind of, air that he had around him of being just a professional and being so polished. And I wish that we still had performers like that. It seems like everybody who's an actor now, they just want to be famous and they just want to be in this big blockbuster and make a bunch of money and do this. Like, no one wants to fucking put in the work anymore. And we're going to start losing all of our classic, just pure artists in,
and all we'll have
in terms of actors.
A bunch of fucking Jai Courtneys running around with no emotion.
Just wait for Captain Boomerang.
It just breaks my heart to not only is it just somebody that I look at as a childhood kind of hero, but as somebody who genuinely appreciates the craft of performance. We lost somebody that appreciated it and respected it, and there's just too many people getting too many awards, making too much money, and getting too much acclaim that just don't put in the work. He put in the work.
My other favorite character, there's probably three of my favorite characters in movies that he's played. Hans Gruber, number one. The Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
He's so
is
good.
Fantastic. His character in it was Alexander Dane in Galaxy Quest, and then Severus Snape. Those are probably my top four performances of his. I like him in Dogma, but he's funny. But Dogma's not. I don't know. I think those are my four of the performances that have always stuck with me after viewing them. Brad, you haven't said anything about Alan Rickman. What do you have? What do you have to say about him?
No, I've always enjoyed his work. It was sad to see him go. He's a great character actor. It's kind of hard, because he was really good and did, a great job of what he did, that you couldn't really tell him. Like, I think one of the best compliments to an actor is like, man, I had no idea that was you in that movie.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how Alan Rickman was, because even though I haven't watched all the Harry Potter films, I've only watched like the first, I think, 2 or 3. Whatever the one where they're fighting somebody in a house at the end of the movie. Whatever that one is. When I very first, because I knew he was in it, because he was the only decent part of those films.
The later ones get better because everyone gets older.
Yeah, I've heard that, but I really can't. I can't do it anymore. I can't go on. So like, I completely forgot, because I was like, oh shit, yeah, that is Alan Rickman. Like, he's and especially like with Dogma and stuff. Like, I went back and I think the day of his death, I just like looked through his IMDb page and I'm like, shit, that's who. Like, I kept on forgetting, like, not by memory, but like, man, that's Alan Rickman as that role. Like, so I think that's a pretty cool thing, is when you kind of You're almost like a chameleon in a way.
What's weird about him is he is a chameleon with roles, but it's also distinctly him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he's so good at what he does that he stands out. But I think the character stands out, not the actor. And
totally.
I think that's more or less a compliment than, like, oh, I didn't notice you were in that movie. No, I think it's more or less a compliment to actors.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely. Because he just completely envelops whoever he's becoming. He lets himself truly go to those places and be those characters. I mean, when you look at Dogma, he wears a dickless crotch, like codpiece. Like, you have one of the most respected actors of the British stage, and you're making him wear a dickless codpiece. That's hilarious.
Amazing.
Like, that's incredible to me that he got away with that. And that just goes to show the dedication that a performer like Alan Rickman has, because most people would scoff at something like that. They'd be like, no way, I'm not wearing that shit. And he's like, okay, if that's what the script asks, then that's what I'm doing. And you're like, God, you're so good.
It's incredible. Yeah, his filmography is so great, and there's so many movies that I still haven't seen that I need to make it a point to really kind of dive in. He's done a lot of dramas and things like that too, just, not non-fantasy, science fiction-y type stuff, and I really want to kind of dig into his filmography and even more. So it's a shame that it kind of takes someone passing for us to really start to give, other films a chance. But we're not going to get another Alan Rickman film, so you got to go through and start discovering, all the stuff that we've, I guess, overlooked. So,
yeah.
Well,
isn't he the voice of the caterpillar in the Alice in Wonderland movies? The Tim Burton ones?
Probably. He worked with Tim Burton in that shaving movie.
Because I want to say... I want to say they finished the sequel to...
What, Noah? Hold on, my son's telling me something. What'd you say?
Probably saying about Alan Rickman.
You had poo-poo in the potty? High five!
Congratulations! He probably can't hear us.
I'll give you candy in a few minutes, okay? 1 minute, okay?
Go look at the
1
poop,
minute.
Sean.
I'll be right out.
Sean, go look at the poop.
Yeah, it needs to be verified. The poop needs to be verified that it's in the toilet before candy is handed out.
You need to go check it out.
Yeah. Well, we do need to wrap up. So
yeah, we do.
My wife is at her wit's end with the children, and I need to we need a tag team. I need to give her a break.
You need to tag her out.
Exactly. She deserves it. I want to, check out all these. Everyone's, check out more David Bowie films you've missed, and the music, and definitely more Alan Rickman. We're going to get to the films we're going to be talking about for the segments next week, because I think I want to be able to dig into them and not just kind of brush over them, because they're pretty damn fun. Of Unknown Origin and Dominion we'll be talking about next week for sure. So if you haven't seen those, track them down and be part of the discussion. Of course, check out our sponsors, Coffee Shop of Horrors and Grindhouse Video, and Wolfman of Mars provide us the music for this show. And, oh, Noah, what are you doing? He's starting to mess with my soundboard.
He wants to let you look at the poop.
And then, of course, Kevin Spencer. Noah, stop. Kevin Spencer. Check out his art over at inkspatters.com. And go to our website, thescreamcast.com/sponsors.
Grab the poop.
For all of the details, because there are coupon codes that you can use. Noah,
bring the poop, Noah. Bring in the poop.
All right, that's gonna. Before you shut something off, that's gonna do it for this week's show. But I thank all you guys for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Gosh, Noah. Noah, say bye. Say bye. Okay, fine.
Oh, don't tell me you're leaving. The party's just begun.